Look at the governmental resources from the US versus the European Union, we see a couple of big differences. So let's look at the US FDA and let's look at the European FSA, the Food Safety Authority, which is their equivalent to the United States FDA. So the first thing is the stance. The US takes a much more laissez-faire, hands-off approach to regulating BPA, and you can see that on their website here, including this is one very clear example of it, in their FAQ, is BPA safe? They say yes, quite clearly here. And this is what a lot of websites like WebMD will reference. But if you look at the European version over here, you can see, let's actually take a look at ECHA, the European Chemical Agency, which is much more clear that it has bisphenols, including BPA, have hazardous properties. And you can clearly see the concerns here. They have a much different stance. Many bisphenols may damage fertility and disrupt the hormonal system of both people and animals. They may also cause skin allergies. So the European information is quite different from the US in their stance here. Also, the frequency of information. So if we go back to the FDA here on their bisphenol BPA page overview, you can see that essentially they've done a final report of literature on BPA from 2014, and you see most of the other updates here are not very frequent. Whereas if we go over to the European Food Safety Authority, they have an update from 2023, and going back to the difference in stance, you can see that they have clearly stated here, in an extensive assessment of the scientific evidence and after input from public consultation, EFSA's experts identified potentially harmful health effects on the immune system. The European Commission and national authorities will discuss appropriate regulatory measures. And if you go on to read this, they'll see that they have done further evaluation since their initial risk assessment in 2006. They reviewed over 800 studies published since 2013. So basically, new data has come out, new research has been conducted, they've evaluated that, and they've basically reevaluated the toxicity of BPA. So looks like the European Union is taking further action to really understand what's going on and science since the initial warnings, whereas in the US, they've done their initial reports, and that's kind of where they stand now. But we should mention that there has been a filing of a request for reconsideration, and you can see organizations like the Environmental Defense Fund, Breast Cancer Prevention Partners, Clean Water Action, Clean Water Fund, etc. These different groups have petitioned the FDA to reevaluate, and they are still reevaluating. So going back to the information available area, not much information on this, but we can see that these organizations have petitioned for reevaluation. So finally, you can just see across these examples, you can see the pages here on the FDA giving some FAQ answers, but not going into much detail. And then you can see on the European Chemicals Agency links out to various different resources here, and this being one of them, much more detailed information around bisphenols. So in quick summary, I'm mostly getting much more helpful information from the European Union's resources than I am from the FDA. And that's one reason you want to dig a little bit deeper. You may see that WebMD or other websites are referencing the FDA, but when you dig in deeper, you can see how shallow the FDA information is and how out of date it is compared to resources from other governmental organizations such as the European Unions.